So, the new Spider-Man game came out a few weeks back, and it has been met with quite a bit of controversy. But I want to talk about one of the controversial things that happened in the new Spider-Man game, that being Mary Jane. Now, Mary Jane has had a little bit of a facial reconstruction. See, this is what her face looked like in the first game. This is what her face looks like now. Of course, this has upset a lot of people, and it has brought up the topic of, are female video game characters becoming more ugly in video games? Now, to answer that question, I think the answer is probably yes, and I think it is more relatable to Western developers, and especially Sony has had a trend of making ugly female video game characters. Now, of course, the question is, why are developers doing this? So I've seen a bunch of reasons as to why people think this is the case. One of the reasons I've heard recently is that it is because of technological issues that characters are becoming more ugly. They make the argument that the character's facial design is contradictory to the voice actress' facial features. Basically, with motion capture, the actress's facial features contradicts that of the in-game model, and basically developers have to kind of work around that and incorporate more of the voice actress's facial features rather than the facial features of what they had in mind with the original design of the character. Now, it is a compelling argument, except for the fact that it only seems to affect female characters, which makes no sense. So I don't think that is particularly the truth. I've also heard the arguments of it being woke and it is simply studios pandering to a certain group of individuals. This could be the case in certain circumstances, but I don't think you can say that this is a compelling argument for every video game character that is ugly. So of course the other question to ask is, why is this such a big issue? Why are ugly video game characters so offensive to a lot of people? The first argument that I continuously hear is that video games are a form of art, and making ugly video game characters is basically making ugly art. I think there is some sense to this argument. I just don't think all forms of art are beautiful. The most compelling argument to me in regards to the uglification of video game characters is that we as humans like to look at other beautiful people. And the argument that the only people complaining about this stuff are loser version men that don't have anything better to do with their time is a little bit stupid, because there are more than enough women that you can find on YouTube that complain about this very same topic. And I think this is why the argument that we as humans enjoy looking at other beautiful people is probably the biggest argument against the uglification of video game characters. I think just like how there are women complaining about this factor, there will be men complaining about the same thing if it happens to male characters. I think that if Leon from the Resident Evil 2 remake was deliberately made ugly for no real reason in the new Resident Evil 4 remake, people would be absolutely mad about that, because it just doesn't make any sense to do it. Now, with all of this being said, should all video game characters be attractive? And I think the answer to that question is a little bit more complicated than you would think. Now, if I was somebody who made video games, I would absolutely make all of the video game characters attractive in my games. But I understand why some people would not want to do so. If they don't want to make attractive video game characters, that is fine. I also don't think that developers should be scared of making attractive video game characters with the fear of offending some people. I don't think that attractive video game characters are offensive. If they want to make ugly video game characters, it should be for a reason or because it is part of the developer's vision. I think that a lot of complaints with ugly video game characters these days has also been a little bit unfair in some circumstances. I think the new Fable trailer that showed off the possible main character was absolutely slammed with cries of the video game character being ugly. But I also think that for the most part, a lot of Fable games characters were goofy looking. Fable doesn't immediately come to my mind when I think of video games with attractive video game characters. So I think a lot of the complaints about that game was a little bit silly. I think consistency is also needed. I think if you deliberately make the female video game characters ugly but make the male video game characters more attractive, questions are going to be raised and people are going to call you out for it. I think a game like the Horizon franchise is a perfect example of a game being consistent, because all of the characters in that game is ugly. Now, of course, this isn't me defending Spider-Man 2 in any way or form. This is, after all, a game that made Peter Parker more attractive and made Mary Jane way less attractive. And I think if you do stuff like that, you are open for criticism. But overall, I'm saying that if developers have an idea or a vision of a video game with ugly video game characters, that is fine. Just as it is also fine to make video games with attractive characters in it. And yeah, that's basically what I have to say about this topic. If you've made it this far, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about all of this commotion, all of this drama. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.